Now, there are more anti-coup demonstrations in Thailand. People are taking to the streets despite a warning from the army chief not to join the demonstrations.
I want you to avoid joining the protests because right now, the usual democratic system cannot operate normally. As for the transfers of civil servants, police and military personnel, we insist that there was no intention to dishonor them or dishonor any agency. It was necessary in order to decrease the pressure on those people.
Let's take you to Bangkok now, where Scott Heidler is standing by. Now, Scott, obviously people are defying the threat of arrests in order to voice their anger over the coup. What sort of numbers are you seeing at these protests?
Fauzi, we're seeing a couple of hundred people here, and they have been here in earnest for about 2 hours. It started about 3 hours ago. It kind of started slowly, and what was very interesting about this anti-coup protest movement, if you compare it to what we saw over the last 6 months, when you had massive movements of people going through the city and ending up at a place when we saw those anti-government protests, very visible, very big. Here it wasn't like that. It just kind of started to appear. The people started to appear from the crowd. That is an indication of how this was organized because of the situation, because we're under a coup situation where it's actually illegal for 5 people to gather at once. Plenty more than 5 people back here. What they did is they used social media to communicate where to meet and what time, and so that's why all of a sudden you had maybe 1 or 2 people. There was a little bit of a scuffle. First it was the army, then it became the police now. So that's why I was really able to mushroom pretty quickly. And they've been back there chanting things like get out, get out, get out to the army, and also democracy and elections. So they've been out here for quite some time. And you know, when you see the posture of the law enforcement here, it is steadily downgraded. Initially, it was army soldiers in full gear, helmets and everything, stationed behind me. Then they took a little bit of a step back, if you will. Riot police came up with shields and batons. They took a little bit of a step back. Now you just see police officers fanning throughout and kind of surrounding the mall, and they have no protective gear on them. They have no batons. So very interesting shifting of posture by the law enforcement in front of these anti-coup protesters.
It certainly is an interesting development there. But now we know that the former Prime Minister, several politicians, academics, and a few journalists as well have been detained by the military. Have there been any more names that have been added to this list that the military is arresting?
Yeah, we've seen a lot more added in those categories you just mentioned, people in the education field, but then also, which is very interesting, and this happened today on Sunday, executives from big corporations here in Thailand, particularly the energy sector. The military didn't say exactly why they wanted to speak with them, but you can ascertain that it's most likely because they're concerned, the military, the junta that is running this country now, they're concerned about how the economy will move forward. It's already now, it's seen a quarter of negative growth. If that happens again over the next 3 months, this country will technically be in a recession. This was before the coup started. So clearly the military rulers of this nation are worried about the economy. They're bringing in these executives, but focusing on the energy sector too, because we're in summertime. There's a lot of electricity consumption right now. So obviously that's something they want to make sure, that sector, want to make sure that it's operating properly and moving forward.
All right, Scott, thank you for that. That's Scott Heidler there updating us on the situation in Bangkok.